Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech live on Twitch. I am a very happy Apple sheep this morning because yesterday I got 14.5 Apple Watch unlocking my phone where I wear my mask. Haven't actually had to use it in public yet because we haven't left the house, but I'm just glad it's out. It's working. It's on the public version of iOS now. We don't have to worry about doing betas or bricking our phones or watches or whatever, which gets me excited. Wow, DJ, I'm going to imitate you for a second. Why, DJ? Why? Have I become that predictable? Okay. To avoid being predictable, I'll just say, thank you, DJ. That's very generous of you, and you are appreciated. And I hope you continue supporting me because I will use that money to buy things I don't need. I appreciate you so much, DJ. There. Is that what you wanted? I'll just say thank you. Thank you so much for 33 months. He's on a tier 2 subscription on a 33-month streak. That is insanity. Wow. My goodness. Do you use the Hermes Apple Watch? No, not at all, because I am not an idiot. That's only people who buy those, right? I haven't met anybody that genuinely buys those and uses them, but I would like to talk to them. I would like to understand why they think that is worth what it is. Maybe it holds its resale value really well or something, but I don't get that. Okay, Avnub says, I'm only watching the stream now because my class got canceled due to my professor's computer undergoing an unwanted Windows update. Haha! I am truly winning. Thank you, Microsoft. So we got a Windows update that canceled class. That would actually make me love Windows if I got out of class for it. And now you're watching Talos of Tech. That's a big win in my book. I'll take that win on that one. Ligma, Mr. Franklin, Ligma. But I wanted the Apple Watch to become so much more. But I'll take this as a victory today. I'm not expecting Apple to change everything overnight, but this will be added to my wish list of what I want Apple to do at Quadruple UDC, which is probably going to have a big emphasis on software. That's pretty much the only guarantee we have each year. Hardware at Quadruple UDC is always a wild card. It's never a for sure thing. And given how much hardware we got at the April event, at this point, I would not be shocked at all if we don't get any hardware in June and they decide to just make this a software/services event, and that's pretty much all we talk about. That makes sense. It would not be very surprising. But at the same time, I would love if we could get some hardware because obviously I'm worried about the upcoming iMacs. I'm worried they're going to look very similar to the 24-inch iMac, which we've beaten that dead horse into the ground very hard. There's people who like the design, and there's people who don't like the design, and there's people that think no one agrees with them that say they're in the middle, but there are actually tons of people in the middle. They just think they're the only ones. It's funny. I see a lot of people that are on sides that there are clearly a lot of people in that think they're playing devil's advocate. You're not playing devil's advocate if there's a ton of people that are still on your side. It's very divisive. I think that's the description I would use for the Mac. It's objectively divisive. I don't think we can say it's objectively good or bad, because there's some people who really like the design. There's some people that absolutely despise it, and there's some people that are split. But it doesn't seem to be overwhelmingly one or the other. It's pretty much all divided. Everybody is split somewhere. They either don't care or somewhere in the middle. And that has me worried that the next iMac is going to look somewhat similar, which is going to make me not want to get a new iMac because it'll look essentially the same as my iMac Pro does currently. And the only thing really I had an issue with my iMac Pro was the design being dated. And it sounds like they're not changing that aspect, but they're changing the I/O and making it thinner from the side. So that will absolutely turn me away from upgrading. However, I can still get excited for software because that's free. That's not going to cost us anything extra to upgrade to. And the Apple Watch being this key, what I love about the Apple Watch is the fact that you don't have to unlock it every time you use it. You know, like once it's attached to your wrist, it can stay unlocked. And you pretty much only have to unlock it once a day. There are some people that might take it off a couple times throughout the day, but most don't. I feel like most of the time you put it on in the morning, and then it stays there till the evening, and then you take it off. There's some people that might vary from that a little bit, but that's the general trend. And as long as it's unlocked and attached to your wrist, I really feel like taking advantage of the U1 chip and spatial awareness, the Apple ecosystem should be really good at detecting, okay, the authorized user that we have already confirmed is authorized and using his device is a couple feet away or a couple inches away from his iPad or his Mac or his iPhone. And whether or not you're wearing a mask should be irrelevant. It should just be able to register, oh, okay, the authorized user is here. He's holding his phone. Let's unlock now, or not even need to lock, just as soon as you walk in the room, as soon as the watch is very, very close and you touch it, there's no lock animation at all. You can just swipe up whenever you feel like it. It's the equivalent of not having a passcode, which is, I think, what a lot of people would appreciate, is just not even feeling like there is a mechanism. That's like the dream territory, right? Like the dream of biometrics would be you don't even realize that you're unlocking devices. You just walk up to your computer, walk up to your phone, walk up to your iPad, and it just starts working. There's no like, let me use Face ID, or let me rest my finger here. Let me look at the biometric in this way. Oh, my hand is covering up the Face ID sensors. That's one of the few criticisms I have of this generation iPad Pro, is that it would be so much nicer if the Face ID sensors were up here, because I don't cover it too much here. But what's even better, no Face ID sensor. I mean, have it there when you're in situations where you want to unlock it. But I'm saying a lot of us are using these things in the comfort of our own homes, especially the Wi-Fi versions, where people are not really taking these things on the go very much, and checking to make sure that, you have a 30,000 dot matrix in a 3D mapped pattern with the True Depth camera system. Do that when you're out in public, in the wild, or at an airport, or around strangers. But if you're in the comfort of your home, do we need to measure all of that data in all of its precision every single time? If we're with people that we trust and we don't need to lock them out from the people around, all I'm arguing for is options. I'm not saying force people to not have that. I'm not saying force people from having the option to keep it the way it is today and just locked whenever you feel like it. That's fine. But for those of us who are outside of that realm, would be so nice for the Apple Watch to unlock everything. And today's victory, iOS 14.5, is another step in that eventual direction that I want to be in, where the Apple Watch can unlock everything, to the point now where I wish the Apple Watch would unlock my iPhone even if I wasn't wearing a mask. Even if I was just going about my day and I just picked up my phone and I opened it and it realized, can you guys remind me, does the Series 6 have the U1 chip or not? I thought it did, but I could be misremembering. Because if it has the U1 chip and my iPhone has the U1 chip, I don't care if everyone has an Apple. If you don't have an Apple Watch, just default back to the old biometric. I'm just saying, if someone does have the Apple Watch, then there should be an extra benefit of having it. If you don't have the Apple Watch, fine, then just go back to regular biometrics. That's what we essentially have today. It does have the U1 chip. So in my opinion, if the Apple Watch is within... The U1 is very precise. If you've been watching these AirTag videos of dialing people down, like where they want to find their keys, when they want to find their AirTags, it can specify when you're like 3 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot, half a foot, 0.2 feet. Like, the U1 chip is so spatially aware and so precise with how far away you are from your device. I'm sorry about Starlink. I know it's lagging. Right now you need a mask to unlock your iPhone via Apple Watch. The only way to unlock the iPhone via Apple Watch is if it looks at your face and detects a mask is on. There have been times I've gotten to trick it just by covering my bottom half of my face with my hand, but it doesn't work every time. So from what I can see, it sometimes can tell when it's not a mask and you're just covering your face, and other times it can definitely tell when it's actually a mask. It seems to work pretty reliably. If I just put my shirt up like this, it'll think it's a mask. But in my opinion, using the U1 chip, which is in the Series 6 and in my iPhone, if it detects that the authorized user is within 3 feet, 2 feet, just like an absurdly close distance, if it detects that it's very, very close, like arm length close, then it could just default to the Apple Watch unlocking it instead of the biometric itself. Maybe Apple doesn't want that because they're very proud of the biometric hardware and the biometric sensors, and they feel like if they start doing that, the biometric sensors will start to become pointless or unnecessary. Maybe that's the argument, but even there, I feel like that's a dumb reason because sure, like if you want to go in public and you're going to be away from home and you're going to be further away, I could understand not wanting the device to unlock. That's fine. But when you're in the comfort of your own home, we basically need geo-marked, geo-fenced safe spaces where you can designate this area is my home. I am not near strangers. I am not in public. You know, I'm fine here. You don't have to be as secure as when I'm out and about. Same way, like I said in today's video, if you live alone or if you live with someone you're very close to that you don't really need, I guess this is my demographic because me and my wife, like, we're not, you know, we don't cover the doors for everything. I only shut this door because I'm recording, but I don't lock that door, you know? Like, I don't lock doors to the bathroom when I'm by myself or it's just my wife. There's no need to lock it. Like, she knows if the door is closed, someone's in there. And she could open it, but she's not going to find anything very interesting. So in those circumstances, I'm like, why would I lock the doors in a house that is just me and those I trust? That's kind of how I feel about biometrics, is it's locking things that don't need to be locked. It's like locking your microwave or something, you know? It's like locking it down. I was told yesterday I had to update my iOS on my Mac Mini M1. What was the point of this new update? I don't know. I wasn't asked. I wasn't the one telling you. You'd have to ask them. But I think you mean Mac OS. Update Mac OS. There are all kinds of security patches, though. There's little developer notes that'll tell you that kind of stuff. The end goal would be where your smartphone uses whatever data it has available to unlock and you don't even think about it. A partial face scan from looking at your face. From looking at the device, a partial fingerprint scan from touching the screen, your location, and other devices nearby would all be used to determine if it's you without any single individual metric having to be perfect. I like that because that's the issue with biometrics, right, is they're not flawless. Touch ID and Face ID, they do have inaccuracies. There are times where you're looking at your iPhone the wrong way, you're looking at it sideways, or your finger is wet, so Touch ID doesn't work. All those types of things. 10 bits, did you see the lines on the leak of the AR iPhone? It's not a real iPhone 13 leak, but no, I did not see the lines. I know you tried to point them out to me several times. I still did not see them. I agree that it is fake. We are way too early in smartphone development season for us to be anywhere near iPhone 13 ready designs to be out in the wild where you can actually hold them and look at them. But no, I did not see the lines you were specifying. Do you lock your front door? Yes, but that's because there's outsiders out there. You know, there's strangers out there. If I'm inside my own house, I don't lock the doors into the bedrooms. You know, there's no point. Like, I'm not worried about a stranger. Like, basically, for the same reason, I don't, like, I'm trying to think of a comparable example. Like, for the same reason we don't lock AirPods, right? We don't lock the AirPods in their case, because if you've gotten access to the case, then it's fine for it to open it up and you access the AirPods inside, you know? Oh, don't connect to the iMac. Oh, geez. Another one, auto connect. AirPods auto connect are not as good as I feel like they should be. I want just the universal Bluetooth pairing where you put AirPods in and then no matter what device you use, you hear audio. It's not one device or the other. It's not just getting the audio from the iPad. You get your audio from everything. Like, everything in the Apple ecosystem goes through the AirPods as soon as you put them in. That's how I would like it. You could have an option to turn that off, but that's, in my opinion, that would be the nicest way. We need locks for iPhone cases. We got to put a biometric on your phone case. Let's see. Is Face ID that slow or intrusive that it'd be beneficial to disable it in your house? Face ID is so quick, it's a non-issue for me. It's very quick and it works, but there are those small circumstances where it doesn't. It's not flawless. It's very much in the 95, 99% works most of the time, but there are edge cases where it doesn't. The one I think of a lot is when people are holding their iPad like this and your hand ends up covering part of the Face ID sensors. And you get the arrow there, see? It's like, camera covered. Your camera covered. This iPad should be able to communicate with my watch and detect, oh, okay, the Face ID sensor's covered, but we know it's the authorized user, so we're going to unlock whatever. Same with the iPhone. There are times where I'm holding it weird, or it's sitting flat at a desk. Sometimes my iPhone's sitting flat at the table. And if I tap it like this, and I'm just using it as it's flat at a table, I have to go, there, now unlock. There's certain circumstances where you're holding it or using it in a way where Face ID does not work flawlessly. So it's very good. I agree. And I definitely prefer Face ID over Touch ID, just because fingerprints, in my experience, have been a lot more finicky. They're much easier to get incorrect. The Macs would need the U1 chip. Not really, because the Macs are unlocking via Apple Watch now without the U1 chip. They've been doing that for years. My iMac Pro, which is 4 years old, I unlock via my watch every day, and that doesn't have a U1 chip. So I don't I don't understand why they would need the U1. Why don't they just put the U1 in every product? It's tiny and really cheap. I don't know that. I wish they would. Maybe it is more expensive or something. Then maybe it's more pricey or limited. I mean, there are chip shortages right now. That could be part of the problem. I don't know if the U1 is directly impacted by that. But yeah, they have been shipping the U1 in all the iPhone 11s that came out not even last year, 2 years ago now is when the iPhone 11s dropped. And all the iPhone 12s have it. So I'm still concerned as to why certain devices don't. I believe some new Apple products still don't have the U1. I'm not sure why, but yeah, they leave some of them out. Matt Apple says, why do you have a password on your desktop? Because they make me have one. You have to have one. Even if you decide to not require a password when you open your iMac, to install certain software or to install certain my Apple Watch did get a text. I had the silent thing off for the video, but it's fine. There, go back to being silent. I don't need you to make noise. But in order to install software, in order to install different programs and unlock certain security features on the iMac, they make you have a password. There's like not a way around it that I know of. You have to be pretty active in order to turn the whole password off on the whole system. I think I've done it before on older Macs, but it wasn't easy. I had to turn off a bunch of stuff. And honestly, I just haven't put much thought into it because I don't really type in my password that much. I just kind of sit down at my desk and it unlocks. You don't need the U1 chip to unlock your phone with Apple Watch, though. I have a XS Max and it works on it. Yeah, I don't think anybody was making that claim. We all agree U1 and chip is not necessary to unlock a device via the Apple Watch, but it does help people understand. It would help the technology understand when you are a certain amount of distance to a certain device. Like if the iPhone unlocked via Apple Watch like 30 feet away, that would be different from just unlocking it from, 2 feet away, right? And the U1 chip helps with that type of precise spatial awareness. I have an iPhone 7, and 50% of the time Touch ID doesn't work. I have to try 2 or 3 times. It's very annoying. I am with you, Ajaib. I don't know how to say your name. I'm probably butchering it, but yeah, when I had Touch ID on my iPhones, it was very finicky and it had a failure rate that was pretty high. I think for me, when I had psoriasis, it was even higher than 50%. It was probably like 90% failure rate. And especially when you're sweaty or you're eating something or your hands are just different than they usually are. Touch ID was not as consistent for me. But during the pandemic, Touch ID definitely would have been more consistent than the mask. But now that we got the Apple Watch unlock thing, and a lot of people do have Apple Watches, I think that's a great workaround. If you don't have an Apple Watch, then yeah, you're still in a pickle in that regard. But I would say buying an Apple Watch for your iPhone now is a lot cheaper than buying a whole new iPhone in September that might have Touch ID. It's not even a for sure thing. It might not have Touch ID. From what we know so far, it's not a guarantee. It's not like a for sure thing that they're going to have Touch ID. Sorry for the lag. I see the lag. It just fixed itself. Thank you, Starling. People are saying Windows Hello is nowhere near as secure. It's just using an IR camera. It's the same thing as 2D Face Unlock. Let's see. When you restart your Mac with Touch ID, it needs your password. Yes. In order to use Touch ID at all, or in order to have an Apple Watch unlock your Mac type thing, at all, you have to have a backup. Just like in order to use Face ID on the iPad, you have to have a passcode backup. My son has a bad skin on his hands and his Touch ID never works. Yep, that was me too, S63 Tech. A lot of skin disorders out there that don't work very well with fingerprint readers. Do you think Apple would release a third size for watches? Ooh, probably not. I think it's too late. I think they've gotten too late in the game for that. I don't know if you're thinking smaller or bigger, but I think the two sizes cover it pretty well. 40 millimeter and 46 millimeter or whatever. Like that's the little Apple Watch is quite tiny. My sister just bought a 38 millimeter Series 3. She did not consult me. I would have recommended her get something else, but she actually texted me like last week and she was like, how much is, like, where can I get a good iPhone 6S? And I was like, why would you buy a 6S? She still had an iPhone 6. She's had like the same phone for years and years and years. And she was like, where can I get a 6S? I want to get a newer phone. And I was like, I think you want a bigger leap than that. I don't think the 6S is going to get updates very much longer. So if you're going to get a new phone, you should probably get like something a little bit better. So I asked her, I was like, well, what's your budget? Don't tell me what phone you want to get. Just tell me how much you're willing to spend on your new phone. And don't think about the generation or anything. And she was like, I don't want to spend more than $200 on my new iPhone. You know, she doesn't use her phone that much and she doesn't care about the camera, the battery life. She's very light user, very basic stuff. And she was just like, if it's under $200, I'll get it. And I looked around on Amazon for a bit, checked certified refurbished. iPhone SE is not below $200. I looked around. Sorry, I tried. And she doesn't care about the A13 chip, but pretty close to the iPhone SE. I found her an iPhone 8 renewed, which is basically new, through Amazon for, I think, $160, $170. You guys are all recommending her get a phone that's twice her budget. I don't know why. Like, my budget's $200. Oh, spend $400. It's like, why do you guys stop at iPhone SE? If you're going to ignore my price recommendation, just go straight to iPhone 12 Pro Max at that point. No, so we went on Amazon. She's already got the phone. It's too late, guys. But we found an iPhone 8 that was $170, and she got that, and she's been happy with it. And she was like, cool, now I can set up my new Apple Watch. And I was like, wait, what kind of Apple Watch did you get? And she was like, the smaller one, the Series 3. And I was like, what size? And she's like, the smaller size. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't have recommended that one. Yeah, I would say iPhone 8 is still a great phone because that has an A11 chip, which is the same chip as the iPhone 10. So I'm pretty confident in saying the iPhone 8 is going to get updates as long as the iPhone 10 is. I don't think the 10 will get more updates than the 8. So she's probably good for many years, considering my sister's the type of person to keep using an iPhone after it stops getting software updates. Like, she was, again, until yesterday, she was using an iPhone 6. Okay? iPhone 6 from 2014 with an A8 chip. That was her daily driver. Like, that was what she did. All her phone calls and texting, that was what she used day to day. So I don't think she's just going to stop using the iPhone 8 as soon as it stops getting updates. But I do imagine it will stop getting updates maybe 2023, 2024. So she doesn't even spend $200 and she gets a newer phone that's going to take better pictures, better video. Now it has wireless charging. It has a better battery life. She loses the headphone jack, but I don't think she was using that anyway. In fact, someone I was talking to was saying their headphone jack doesn't even work anymore. I think that was my dad. My dad was still using an iPhone 6S until last year. And, it was getting old and it wasn't working very well. And I told him, I sold him my iPhone 11 Pro Max, the one I used for a whole year. I was like, I can sell you this one, but it doesn't have a headphone jack. And he was like, oh, my headphone jack doesn't work. It hasn't worked for years. He's like, I don't know, some crud got in there. It doesn't work anymore. I was like, oh, perfect. So you got nothing to worry about. Maybe it was her, or maybe it was my dad. I can't remember. But my mom and dad and my sister and my other sister. Pretty much everyone in my family will hold on to an iPhone until it physically stops working. And in the case of my sister, the only reason she upgraded her phone was because she got an Apple Watch and it didn't work with the iPhone 6. I think it needed a new software update or something, and it wasn't working for her. So if she didn't have a new Apple Watch to set up, I bet she would have kept using the iPhone 6 for many years. So I'd recommend that Series watch only for slingshot practice. Yes. I do have a broken Series 2 in my collection. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it still turns on. It's just the glass is broken on it, so it looks kind of ugly. No one has taken me up on my iMac Pro trade, which makes sense because I've been looking in the used market. The Pro display does not devalue. At least it's been on the market for over a year now, and the used ones do not go for much cheaper, if anything. And the ones that do go for cheaper sell out fast. They go real quick. The cheapest I've seen a Pro Display XDR sell for, used, okay? We're not talking renewed. We're not talking certified refurbished. I'm talking used. Straight out of the box. It's been used. It's not new anymore. Was like $4,500, which is about $500 less than new. So I've been looking pretty diligently because after looking at the Pro Display in person, I was pretty impressed. I don't think it's worth $6K or $5K without the stand. I'm not willing to pay that for it. Let the record be clear. I absolutely could. I have the money. You know, my credit limit is $8,000. I can I could definitely fit it on my Apple Card. It's the principle of the thing of spending that kind of money on a monitor. That's what I'm not willing to do. But I was very interested in getting a used one and like seeing how cheap they would go in the used market, given it's been out since December of 2019. Now we're at the end of April of 2021. I was like, I wonder if there's some people selling there. There's not a lot of people. If you buy that thing, you're holding on to that thing, or you're not selling it for much cheaper than what you paid for it. So it makes no sense as to why someone would trade my iMac Pro for a Pro Display XDR, given my iMac Pro trade-in value with Apple right now is like $2,000. So if someone wanted an iMac Pro and they didn't want a Pro Display that they currently owned, they would be much better off just selling the Pro Display for $4,000 or $5,000 and then buying an iMac Pro used for $2,000. So yeah, there's literally no benefit to trading someone's Pro Display for my iMac Pro, but I did throw it out there simply because if there was someone crazy enough to take me up on that offer, I would gladly do it. I'd be like, that would be essentially the equivalent of getting like $4,000 back on my iMac Pro, which I know I won't in cash. But if someone was willing to make that trade, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'll take a Pro Display. Volts PC says 6S and 7 have a huge motherboard issue that affect antenna and headphone jack. The 7 doesn't have a headphone jack, Volts. What are you talking about? Do you mean the 6S and 7? Maybe you're just talking about the antenna. But yeah, I don't know why you would list the 7 for the headphone jack thing. Get her an iPhone 12 mini on the T-Mobile 50% off deal. Okay, I'm just going to read this and then I'm going to tell you why it's stupid. Okay, get her an iPhone 12 mini on the T-Mobile 50% off deal, $350, and you trade in any iPhone. Yes, twice the budget, but brand new iPhone that will last her 6, 7, 8 years. Okay, for one, she's not on T-Mobile. She's on Mint Mobile, and because of all the referrals I get through Mint Mobile, she literally pays nothing for that. So on top of that, you would have to ask her to start paying for her phone service, which she hasn't now for over a year, thanks to Mint Mobile. She's been on Mint Mobile for about a year and a half now, and because I have all the referral credits, it costs her nothing. The 12 mini would be about twice her budget, so she spend over $150 more on the phone that she's willing to spend, and then she would have a monthly bill through T-Mobile. So I don't think she would go for that. The 12 mini is a great phone, yes, but when someone tells me their budget is, I mean, it's my sister, okay? It's not, you guys sound like real estate agents when because that's honestly what happened with us when we were in the market for a house. It's typically what happens with any real estate agent because real estate agents will try to push you to get outside your budget. They try to push you. If you tell someone like, what's your budget for a house? And you're like, $400,000 for our house. They will intentionally take you to $500,000 and $600,000 houses so that, for one, they can get a bigger cut of the sale. And two, they encourage you to get a bigger mortgage or to take out a bigger mortgage because they're like, you want a bigger house, right? You're thinking long term, you want commitment. It's like, no, we just physically cannot spend more than $400,000. That's our limit. Like, well, look at this $700,000 house. That's how I feel that would be if my sister was like, I don't want to spend more than 200. And when she says 200, she means like tax, shipping, everything. She's not saying like around 200. I might go a little. When she says like 200's the max, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try to, for one, get her to switch her mobile plan. I'm not going to try get her on a whole different carrier. She's going to have to go to a store. She's got to transfer a number and also get her to spend well over what she's willing to spend. You need a bigger house so you can spend more on air tags because you'll lose things. Because I always hate it when people do that. If you tell someone your budget and then they give you something that's like twice your budget, it's like, why did you even ask? Obviously, if my sister said her budget was $500, I'd probably recommend her a 10R or an SE. I don't know how she feels about having no home button. I've showed my sister my phone, the 12 mini, and she was like, "Oh, that's cute. It's so small." And then I showed her the gestures and Face ID and stuff, and she was like, I don't know. She didn't feel super comfortable with that. So it would depend on how she felt about the home button and Touch ID. But yeah, if her budget was higher, I would have recommended a better phone. But it was lower than anything I could have gotten her straight from Apple. Even Apple certified refurbished. Let me check it again. If I remember correctly, there was not even that many certified refurbished iPhones available for her. Yeah, 12 mini is still my daily driver. Honestly, I don't use it that much when I'm at home. I prefer my iPad Pro because it's bigger and I have split screen and it's 120 hertz and there's no notch. And this is my favorite Apple product. And it has Type-C, which I love. And it feels like, I know it doesn't, but it honestly feels like it has wireless charging in a way. It's inductive charging, kind of. Not really, but basically, not right now. I unplugged it, but I will plug in my Magic Keyboard case and just basically leave the keyboard case on my desk here. And then when I want the iPad to charge, I just dock it on the Magic Keyboard case and it starts charging. And I feel like I don't have to interact with a cable. But I use my iPad for pretty much everything. And the only time I use my iPhone 12 is when I'm not working. Once I get off of work, the iPad typically stays in here. The Mac stays in here. Obviously, it's a desktop. I go out into the bedroom or the living room, and then when there's ads playing on the TV or something, I'll check my phone and do it for basic stuff. But the 12 mini is perfect for on the go, when I go outside or when I leave the house, which isn't often, but when I do, it's very compact. I've expressed this before, but I'm very, very worried that I'm going to get so comfortable and so in love with the iPhone 12 mini that when the 13 Pro Max comes out or whatever it's called, I'm going to not like it anymore. And I'm going to want to go back to a smaller phone. And then I'll want to support it. And I want 120 hertz. I really love that. But at the same time, if the phone is so big, I get uncomfortable with it. Real estate is always, when you actually budget is 400K, say 300K just because of the upsell. You're right. Is that Wouter? Wouter from the Discord? Hey. Yes, you're very correct. If you don't want the realtor showing you houses that are outside of your budget, there were so many houses we looked at that there was just no chance. It was funny. When was that? Summer of 2019. It was around this time of year. Yeah, that's actually, I remember. It was like around April or May is when we started house shopping a couple of years ago. And we told her our budget and she's just started showing us all these crazy houses. It's so awkward too, because you're like, yeah, it's great. Can't do it. They think that you're going to push. They're trying to push you, probably because it works. Real estate agents probably do get away with that quite often. They probably do try to push the budget on you, and there's certain people that fall for it and they just go, you know what? I'm going to budge. We set our budget to this much, but actually we're totally comfortable just spending way more than that. What do you think about the new iPad Pro not supporting the old keyboard case? We can't get a straight answer on this. That's why I don't know how to feel about it. Obviously, if it turns out that you cannot at all get the new 2021 iPad Pro and use your old Magic Keyboard case with it, that will suck. I will be angry, and I probably won't keep the new iPad Pro if that's the case, because I don't think I'm willing to spend $1,500 on a new iPad just for mini LED and the M1 chip. Even if it gets Final Cut, that's a big upgrade. So that will make me very, very frustrated. But we're also getting conflicting reports, because the 9to5 Mac and Mac Rumors report that say the new iPad won't work with the old keyboard case are not citing Apple themselves. They're citing this like case maker from France that's claiming that the size proportions are different now. And from what I'm reading in the community tab in the comment section is they're saying, okay, new iPad Pro still has the smart connector. It's still the same width it's still the same length. What's the term? It's still the same length and height. And there were a lot of people saying that they use screen protectors that are 0.5 millimeters. And that's the only size difference between the new 2021 iPad Pro and the 2018 iPad Pro, is that the new M1 iPad Pro is slightly thicker to accommodate mini LED. 0.5 millimeters thicker, which is not a lot. It's a very small amount. It's almost unnoticeable. And people are claiming that because the new iPad Pro is slightly thicker, it won't work with the old keyboard case. Now, it is a fact that Apple has updated the Magic Keyboard case on the website. It has the new branding. But here's the interesting part. The plot thickens. I actually almost made a video about this. I think I still might make a video on this. The reason I'm hesitant to call it, they're all citing a French Apple news site that claims they've seen Apple Store documentation. Yeah, there have been Apple support people that have said both, which is confusing. So there are some Apple support people that have said, yes, you need a new keyboard case. And there are some Apple support people that say, no, you don't. So basically, the Apple support doesn't know. They basically know as much as we do. We've, as a Cyber Octoling in the chat can attest, the Apple customer support people, they don't get different information than we do. They basically are guessing a lot of the time. I've had that experience as well. There were times I've asked them questions that they did not know the answers to, that there were actual answers out there that I knew the answers to. There were times they said the iMac Pro would be, I remember when I was really, really excited to get my iMac Pro and pick it up. And there was a time that they were saying, or that iMac Pro pre-orders or something were going up, and someone said something along the lines of iMac Pros would be available for pickup at Apple stores. And I checked with Apple support. I was like, will this be available for pickup? And they said, yes, it will be. And then I drove all the way to the Apple store and it was not available for pickup. So they don't know what they're talking about a lot of the excuse me. A lot of the time they don't know. So don't rely on Apple support as a 100% confirmation these guys know everything, because they don't. But here's the weird part. And the reason, man, I start so many sentences. I don't know where I'm going. Okay. The reason I was hesitant to make a video on this is because I don't have a direct answer. So if people ask me, Drew, will the new iPad Pro work with my old keyboard case? The answer is, I don't know. And the honest truth is no one knows, but there's a lot of evidence as to why we're confused. So if I go to the iPad section here, there are lots of people saying that the new 12.9-inch keyboard case is slightly tinkered to accommodate for the 12.9-inch mini LED iPad Pro. And it is backwards compatible. So this is also confusing people. If we go to the compatibility section of the new smart keyboard case, which has new branding, whether or not it's space gray or white, it still says new. It's backwards compatible, so it does work with the old ones. So the new 12.9-inch Magic Keyboard case will work with this iPad, the 2018 one. But there have been some Apple support people saying that the new iPad Pro is not reverse compatible with the old Magic Keyboard case. Here's the weird part. Here's what makes me think I can still use the M1 iPad Pro with my old keyboard case, and Apple's just confused. I think the newer keyboard case will have a slightly better fit and it'll close probably properly, but the new one might not close exactly right, and it might be a tad more loose. But Smart Keyboard Folio, not the Magic Keyboard, but the one without the trackpad, that does not say new, and it still says backwards compatible, which means they haven't changed this Smart Keyboard. This is essentially, this one says view pricing because you can't order the new keyboard yet. Yeah, like I can't add it to my bag. Whereas Smart Keyboard Folio, you can still buy. You can still check this out. You can still, it works with the 5th generation 12.9 inch. It works with the mini LED iPad. Folio hasn't changed. And because of that, I'm still convinced you will be able to use the M1 iPad Pro with the old keyboard case. It just won't fit quite as well, but it'll still work. They just tinkered it a little bit. Now, the fact that we have Apple support people on the record, people have texted Apple support, Volts. This is not like no one's thought of this. People have been calling Apple and contacting Apple directly many times. The confusion is that Apple can't give us a straight answer. We've had some Apple support agents say, yes, it'll still work with the old one. And we've had some say, no, it won't. You need a new one. And that's what's causing all this confusion. So I'm tempted to make a video to just explain to everyone that we're confused and we don't know what's going to happen. It's possible here. Oh, he's saying you can buy the black one. Is that right? Oh, yeah, you can. Okay. It's available for pickup. Ha! That gives me hope. That does give me hope. And it takes the new badge away. Okay. I think we know now. That wasn't there before. It wouldn't let me check that out. I think I was looking at it on the website versus the app. Because they're saying... Oh, okay. Found it. Found the difference. Okay, now I know what I'm talking about. Never mind. I rescind this hope. They just told me it will be compatible, so I don't know. They go both ways. Here's the interesting part. Ready for this? I figured this out. Pay attention here, boys and girls. Will it be easier to see if I do it like this? Not really. Okay, so if I go gray, that's for the 11-inch. But if I go 12.9-inch, gray now says new. Oh, you can't see the brightness. The mini LED is necessary. Essentially, I don't know of a good way to show you this. If you go gray for the 12.9-inch iPad Pro 5th generation, it says new and it's not available to order yet. Whereas if you go gray for the 11-inch iPad Pro, the new badge goes away and gray doesn't say new anymore. So the 11-inch Magic Keyboard case has not changed. But still, yes, the 12.9-inch 5th generation one is still new. You still cannot order the gray one, and they still brand it new. Doesn't matter white or gray. That's what I was seeing earlier. So it is different. It is technically a different keyboard case. They did alter it probably because of the weight and because of the thickness. However, what would be frustrating, which I don't like, is that Apple could technically software limit, I think. I'm not exactly sure if it's possible, but I believe if Apple wanted to, they could design the updated Magic Keyboard case in a way that if you try to dock the M1 iPad Pro to the old keyboard case, it'll be like, sorry, this keyboard's not compatible. You need a newer keyboard. Even if it like physically lines up and the smart connector pins line up, it'll be like, oh, this accessory is not supported. They could technically do that. I hope they don't. I don't think that will be the case. My prediction is that it will still work with the old keyboard case. It just won't be as good a fit. It might not close as well, but it'll still work. Because there are people that have 2018 iPad Pros with the keyboard case, and they have pretty thick screen protectors, and they can still use them with the keyboard case. That's at least according to the forums pages I've been reading. There's a lot of people that have added skins and accessories to their iPads and still been able to close them okay. So that would suck, but I don't think that'll happen. Do you think the rumors for the Apple Pencil are false, or will there be a new one later? Yeah, I feel like the April event would have been a good time. I'm starting to think that it might have just been a prototype pencil. There are certain R&D rejects that get out in the wild and people find them and take pictures of them. There's old Apple Watch prototypes that show up on Twitter now and again. Um, so yeah, I don't know. The Verge and another site, maybe 9 to 5, yeah, it was, claimed on Friday that Apple confirmed that wouldn't be compatible, but there's no actual official quote one way or the other. That's the confusing thing. They're probably just reaching out to Apple support, and Apple support will say different things. It's possible that Apple support will strongly encourage you to get the new keyboard case because it'll close properly and work, but the new one still works. It's just the weight is a little off, and the magnets might be aligned differently. I don't know. Um, so it could be the case, but the weirdest part by far is the fact that the Smart Folio hasn't changed. And the Smart Folio still works with the 5th generation mini LED. And that doesn't say new, and you can still order it. So if that keyboard accessory can still work, why can't the Magic Keyboard, right? Like, what's the difference? Just having a trackpad, it needs a whole new redesign? I don't know. Imagine Apple putting a physical dial on their iPad like Ford did with the Mach-E. Oh, no, Mike, don't go there. You mean the digital crown? We put a digital crown on the side of the iPad for volume changing. A bunch of people watching this just went, actually, though, that's not a terrible... Yes, it is. It's terrible. If you go into the system requirements of the white Magic Keyboard, it says 1, 2, or 3 iPad Pro 12.9-inch or 11-inch of the white keyboard. We're not talking about the new keyboards. The new keyboards are backwards compatible. We know that. That's not up for debate. We're talking about if the new iPad Pro is backwards compatible with the old keyboard case. Apple support gave me a quick yes, so that combined with the fact that Folio hasn't been updated makes me think it's the same. I hope so, or at least compatible. Yeah. If my keyboard just doesn't close exactly right, but it still works, I'm fine, because most of the time my Magic Keyboard case stays open on my desk. So I wouldn't honestly be that upset if it's just like, it doesn't close properly. If it just is like slightly open, I'll be like, okay. I'll save myself $400, opposed to buying a brand new one. The white one looks nice. I just know it'll get really dirty. I had a white Folio case before, and I still have it actually, and it collects dirt very easily. Yeah, personally, I think that Apple Pencil could have just been an internal prototype. I don't even know if that's coming. I feel like they would have done it in April. I don't know why they would have waited to unveil a new. I don't know why they waited to unveil a new Apple Pencil. Apple must have seen all the articles that came out on Friday. Why not just clarify? I'm so confused. I couldn't think of a reason why. The main reason being they want you to buy a new Magic Keyboard case. I mean, they wouldn't have updated the Magic Keyboard case with an updated design with different magnets or accommodation for the thicker iPad. They wouldn't have done that unless there was some benefits. So I do believe that the new keyboard case probably does fit a little bit better, and the magnets align a little bit better, and they accommodate for the iPad Pro thickness and weight more properly. That's the only reason they would do this. So they would obviously much rather you buy a new keyboard case because then they get a sale, they get more money. So they're going to tell everyone the old one doesn't work, and they're going to say, yeah, you probably should get a new one. It'll align better. It'll close better. But at the same time, maybe if it is backwards compatible and it still technically can work, it's just not as comfortable or it's not as tight a fit. They wouldn't want to make that a super well-known thing. They wouldn't want to tell everyone, you don't need a new keyboard case. Save your money. Don't buy a new Apple product. They're not going to actively tell people not to buy the new redesign. So I could see why Apple would keep intentionally quiet about that, because they would rather you be confused and just buy a new one. But if Apple were smart, I would say they would be upfront about it, because there's probably a ton of people like me that are like, I'll upgrade if I can reuse my old keyboard case, but if I can't reuse my old keyboard case, I'm not upgrading. In which case, Apple will lose out on the entire sale of the new iPad Pro, which would be bad for them. So yeah, I agree. Be upfront would be nicer, but if you're saying there's no reason to not be upfront, yeah, I could think of a reason to not be. We're gonna find out sooner or later. They'd rather you just buy a new keyboard case. Yeah, Apple also says the solo loop doesn't work with older watches, even though it does. It just isn't as good a fit. I think it's a very similar situation to that. Yeah, I recall them saying that as well. How could you tell the difference if you buy a used keyboard once the new ones are in circulation? Ugh, you're right. I don't know. That's going to be very confusing. There's not a physical noticeable difference that I know of. Bad customer experience to confuse people about their $350 keyboard purchase a few months ago. I agree, but that's why they're saying it's not compatible on Apple support. They're saying it's not compatible, but they're also not saying it isn't compatible. You know, no one can order the iPad or iMac yet. That's on Friday. But yes, I will. I will live stream my pre-order process as usual. We're going to be ordering the new Apple TV, the new iMac, the new iPad. It's going to be a busy day, but it'll be over in a couple minutes at least. How many more generations of Apple products do you see yourself buying? Is this limited by Apple's innovation uniqueness with products or your fatigue with the repetitive cycle? I don't know if fatigue is the right word. I don't mind upgrading my hardware all the time. It's fun, like even if the changes aren't meaningful. I from a personal level of growing up with Apple products and being an Apple sheep, I enjoy buying new products and transferring over. I always consider myself a futurist, so if I could always get the latest, greatest stuff, I don't mind switching over. Someone tells me this whole, MagSafe, all your old lightning cables don't work anymore and you got to adapt this new, better standard. I'm like, cool, got it. I want to adopt the new standard, the better standard. But yeah, what would keep me from upgrading is lack of changes, and the changes getting smaller and smaller and smaller and not making that big of an impact. That prevents me from, that's why I don't have the 2020 iPad Pro. This one's from 2018. I got the 2020 iPad Pro and I decided, you know what? This isn't that different. I don't think it's worth it. So I'm going to send it back and I'm not going to keep it. So I've done that. And there's been new Macs that have come out since the iMac Pro. In fact, I think some of the 27-inch iMacs are even faster than my iMac Pro, but I didn't upgrade to them because I'm like, I like my iMac Pro. The I/O is better. I like the Space Gray, and I like the speaker system, and the thermal system in the iMac Pro is still unmatched compared to the 5K iMacs. So, yeah, I do wait for some type of meaningful upgrade before I do get a new one. But yes, we're getting to that point where the innovation is not as noticeable. It doesn't make a huge improvement each year to the point where it doesn't make sense to upgrade. Yeah, I could easily see myself keeping this year's iPhone for a lot longer than a year. And I will still hold to the record on, if this year's iPhone doesn't have 120 hertz, I definitely will not upgrade. That's the sole feature. Smaller notch, I don't care. Doesn't make a big difference. I don't think that many people care about the size of the notch, and a notch is still a notch. Whether or not it's really thin or really wide, it's still a cutout. It's still going to be there. So I don't care if they shrink the notch. I don't care if the notch is gone this year. If there's no 120 hertz, I'm not upgrading. Same with the cameras. The cameras on my iPhone 12 mini are great. They're fantastic. Great dynamic range, great video performance. There's been a couple of times where a telephoto lens would be nice, but I literally mean the term a couple of times. Like, there's not been a large number of circumstances where a telephoto lens was absolutely necessary. I don't really mind just sticking with ultra wide and regular. And the display is great, aside from lack of 120 hertz. The dynamic range is fine. So if they were just bragging about XDR on the iPhone, I wouldn't care. And battery life is fine. Obviously, battery life can always be better. Battery life is never, perfected. It's always just improving. And I'm fine with the 12 mini battery life. Occasionally on road trips and stuff, it would be nice if it lasted a little longer, but I can just get a charger in the car. It's not a big deal. It's not something I need a whole new phone for. The speakers on it are great. So the iPhone is quite near perfect design to the point of not even wanting to upgrade every year for me. And this next Mac I purchased, I'm still not sure what it's going to be. If the upcoming 32-inch iMac doesn't have a chin and it has black bezels and it's a clean modern design and it's really fast and all that, like that will probably be my next Mac. But after I get that one, I do probably plan on keeping it for easily another 4. I've had my iMac Pro for almost 4 years now. And come on, Starlink, you can do this. Yeah, what happened to those MagSafe battery cases? I felt like there was references to iOS code for that in iOS code for that. Where did they go? I don't know what happened to that. Okay, yeah, the iMac Pro, the only reason I'm even considering upgrading my iMac Pro is because the design is kind of dated. I feel like people kind of forgot that when I was talking about my next Big Mac purchase at McDonald's. I'm hating it. But like the only issue I had with the iMac Pro was the design. It was like the bezels are thick and the chin is pretty big. Outside of that, iMac Pro is fast. It's speedy. The I/O is great. The speakers are great. The thermals are great. Like I have very little complaints with it. And the fact that now we're getting the new iMac designs and it's starting to feel like from the front they're not really changing much other than colors and removing the logo. That makes me think like, man, well, the 32-inch iMac is probably coming out later this year. And sure, it'll probably have black bezels. That makes sense. But it'll probably still have a chin. And it'll probably be very thin from the side. But the fact that it's going to have pretty noticeable bezels and a chin means that from the front, at least, it's not going to look much different from my iMac Pro. It'll just be same design, but with a faster chip. And if I'll be able to get that chip for cheaper in a Mac Mini or a Mac Pro, I would rather do that and just get my own display that would look better. Because from the front, I think there's a lot of monitors that look much better than the iMac Pro. I was looking at them the other day, and I was like, well, if I'm getting my own monitor, I would rather get something with a high refresh rate. That way I get the 120 hertz I like, and it'll be like the iPad Pro and my next iPhone, high refresh rate. So, yeah, but whatever that next Mac is, I'll probably hold on to it for 4 to 5 years. I can't see a reason of upgrading again. If I get the design I like, and that was my only issue with the iMac Pro, and the performance is supposed to be great, then yeah, I don't see a huge reason to upgrade after that. And if I do keep this mini LED iPad Pro, I've got almost everything I want in one product. It's just going to be software limited. It's like I've got the great dynamic range, I got 120 hertz, I got USB-C, I've got Apple Pencil, I've got keyboard case support, hopefully. Like I can't think of something they could come up with the iPad that would make me want to upgrade. I guess maybe more I/O. They're like, hey, now we've got 2 USB-C ports, 2 Thunderbolt ports on the iPad. I'd be like, oh, that's cool, but I don't know if I would need to upgrade for just that. Or a bigger one. I'd be somewhat interested if they did like a 16-inch iPad Pro. Some crazy size like that. That would be kind of interesting, I guess. But definitely not like a must-have. I don't know if I would definitely upgrade to that, but it would make me consider it. What do you think is the hub for the Apple ecosystem right now? What do you think want it to be in the future? I think the iPhone is the hub. That's like the main core of it all. That's where it all starts from. Mike has started the crown apocalypse. Yeah, everyone's talking digital crowns now. Jeez. The battery cases will be the AirTags for the next 2 years. Oh, God. Oh, no. If they bring Xcode to the iPad Pro M1, I'm all in. Oh, yeah, I know. Not Xcode for me, but Final Cut, yeah. Would make quite a big difference if we could. Or people asking, is it weird that I like the iPhone's notch? It makes the iPhone an iPhone, just like the iMac's chin makes an iMac an iMac. I much prefer familiarity over generic. I disagree with that. I don't know why a bunch of people are saying the chin makes the iMac an iMac. You know how many stupid monitors out there have big chins on them? The crappy little LG monitor my wife uses for work has a chin on it. Like half the monitors I look up have chins on them. Why are people acting like a chin is what makes an iMac? I don't get that. Like in the same way the home button made the iPhone an iPhone. When they got rid of that, they just come up with something else iconic. I mean, iPad Pros don't have a notch or a chin, and yet they have an iconic look. You know an iPad when you see one. The Pro Display XDR doesn't have a notch or a chin or anything. It's just a beautiful canvas that I thought Apple was very proud of. Like one size bezel, same size bezel all the way around. It's very clean. It's very beautiful. That's iconic. Why do we need to add unnecessary space to the front, unnecessary stuff for it to be iconic? Like, to me, what made the iMac iconic was the logo, because I've seen countless desktops, even all-in-ones. Like Dell had some all-in-ones that were used at the computer labs in my school, they had big chins and side bezels and stuff. No, you may want to see the color of the iMac. You want to see the color. Well, why do we have iPad Airs in multiple colors? Why do we have iPad Pros in silver and space gray? I mean, for one, they're mobile products, so you take them around with you. The color's more obvious, but that's why I would argue having multiple colors for a desktop doesn't make sense at all. It's not wrap around the middle to the front so we can tell what color the back is. That doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do that on an iPhone. You wouldn't do that on anything else, really. The Pro Display only came in one color, and I didn't see anybody complain about that. You know, like, it's a desktop. It sits on your desk. You don't look at the side or the back. When you don't move something around, there doesn't need to be color options. I get that they're fun, and they look good for marketing, and they get people hyped up in the short term, but in the long term, it makes no difference. If you want to argue the aesthetic, I would argue it makes the front look arguably worse. Like, we're willing to have multiple colored iPad Airs, and those don't have chins. So I don't understand why the chin is like this must-have, like you need a chin. It's really not. I don't see it. Yeah, just have some colors on the back if you want. I'm not against having colors. I'm just saying don't make design choices based around, don't make hardware design choices based on wanting the colors to be visible from the front. That's just silly. Not functional at all. I don't think we should keep designs similar because of nostalgia. No, I agree. Yeah. I don't think a good reason to keep the chin is just because we've always had a chin. That's dumb. They did the colored iMac to satisfy Justin. Exactly. Well, no matter what I start these live streams with, it all comes back to the iMac design. I've had surprisingly not that much backlash on my iMac rant, to be honest with you. You're gonna hang it from your ceiling so you can have a 360-degree view. I just mean even when you have a 360-degree view, you don't see the back very often. But that video I did ranting on the iMac still has a pretty high like ratio. It got some dislikes, but for the most part, I was expecting it to get a lot more backlash because I've seen a lot of people say they like it. But then a lot of people watch the video and they're like, yeah, okay, that's fair. Stop. Oh my God, Mason, stop saying, am I the only one? No matter what your opinion is, you're not the only one. Okay. There's so many people who have the same opinions on the subject. Yeah. I don't like the white bezels or the chin. We know this. We've been talking about it for, it's Tuesday. It's been a week now. We're still talking about this. My God, that's how bad it is. Anywho, I appreciate you guys for watching. The bits, the Twitch primes, all very much appreciated. Hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.